Will Smith was humiliated on live TV, and what happened just minutes later shocked everyone watching. Now make sure you watch this video until the very end, and don't forget to subscribe, because the twist that followed is something no one saw coming. The studio lights were bright, almost blinding, reflecting off the polished stage floor as cameras rolled and millions watched from home. It was supposed to be a routine live television appearance. Laughter, promotion, light conversation. The host smiled confidently, the audience applauded, and Will Smith walked onto the stage with the charm and charisma the world had come to expect from him. First, everything felt normal. Casual jokes, friendly exchanges, a relaxed energy in the room. But then the tone shifted. A comment was made, subtle at first, disguised as humor, but it landed differently. The audience reacted with scattered laughter, some hesitant, some louder than expected. The camera briefly cut to Will's face, capturing a moment that lasted less than a second but felt much longer. He smiled, but it wasn't the usual smile. There was a pause, small, almost invisible, yet powerful enough that anyone paying attention could feel it. The host continued, doubling down with another remark. This time the laughter was louder. The humiliation wasn't aggressive, but it was public. It was live, and it was happening in front of millions. For most people, that moment would have been enough to create discomfort, maybe even embarrassment. But Will Smith didn't react immediately. He leaned back slightly, eyes scanning the audience, absorbing the energy in the room. The cameras zoomed in again, searching for emotion, for a reaction. And then something changed. Instead of responding defensively, instead of showing anger, he stood up, calm, composed, deliberate. The audience's laughter slowly faded into confusion. The host's smile began to falter. No one was sure what was about to happen next. Was he leaving? Was he confronting the comment? Was this part of the show? The silence stretched. And that's when he made his move. Not loud, not dramatic, but controlled. He walked toward the center of the stage, microphone in hand. His posture was steady. His voice, when he finally spoke, was calm but firm. Every word carried weight. He didn't insult. He didn't shout. He simply shifted the narrative. The room went quiet. The same audience that had laughed moments earlier was now watching intensely. The energy had flipped completely. What started as humiliation had turned into something else, something powerful. The host attempted to recover with another joke, but it didn't land the same way. The atmosphere had changed. Will's response wasn't explosive, it was strategic. He didn't just defend himself. He redefined the moment. Viewers at home flooded social media instantly. Clips began circulating before the segment had even ended. Did you see that? That was smooth. He handled that perfectly. The conversation shifted from mockery to respect in a matter of minutes. And the most shocking part? He didn't raise his voice once. That's what stunned everyone. Because humiliation on live TV is designed to create viral embarrassment. But what happened instead was a masterclass in composure. He allowed the moment to unfold, then took control without aggression. It wasn't about revenge, it was about presence. Even the host seemed to realize the balance of power had changed. The tone of the interview softened. The jokes stopped. The conversation became more respectful, more measured. It was subtle but undeniable. And just when it seemed the tension had settled, Will added one final line before the segment ended. A sentence so calm yet so direct that it sealed the moment. The audience didn't laugh this time. They applauded. What started as humiliation had transformed into admiration. But here's the part that makes this story unforgettable. What happened after the cameras cut? Because once the live broadcast ended, the reactions backstage were completely different from what viewers expected. Conversations shifted. Producers exchanged looks. And the host? Let's just say the confidence from earlier wasn't quite the same. Clips of the moment trended within minutes. Analysts debated whether it was intentional, whether it was scripted, or whether it was pure instinct. But those who understood performance and presence knew exactly what had happened. Will Smith didn't just respond. He calculated. He waited. And then he delivered. That's what shocked everyone. He shifted the entire temperature of the room without anyone realizing it at first. The cameras were still pointed at him, the red lights blinking, the producers whispering through headsets backstage. What looked like a simple comeback was actually something much deeper, a controlled recalibration of power in real time. The host had expected discomfort, maybe an awkward laugh, maybe silence. What no one expected was composure mixed with precision. When Will paused before answering, it wasn't hesitation. It was assessment. He was reading the room, the audience's body language, the host's tone, the rhythm of the exchange. And when he spoke again, it wasn't reactive. It was intentional. He reframed the narrative. Instead of addressing the insult directly, he expanded the conversation. He spoke about resilience, about public scrutiny, about how easy it is for humor to cross invisible lines. His voice never cracked. His face remained steady. The energy in the room began to lean toward him. That's when the audience realized something had shifted. The laughter had evaporated. In its place was attention. You could almost see it, the host trying to regain control of the segment, flipping through cue cards faster than usual, throwing in a light comment that no longer landed. The balance had tipped. And live television is unforgiving when momentum changes. Behind the scenes, producers were signaling for commercial breaks. The segment was running longer than planned. Social media managers were already clipping the exchange. Within minutes, the moment was circulating online. Some called it uncomfortable. Others called it brilliant. But everyone agreed on one thing: it was unforgettable. When the show finally cut to commercial, the studio atmosphere felt different. Applause came late, softer than before. Crew members moved quickly, avoiding eye contact. The host leaned toward Will with a half-smile that didn't fully mask the tension. But Will didn't show irritation. He stood up calmly, adjusted his jacket, and walked off stage with the same pace he had when he arrived. Backstage, the silence was heavier than the studio lights. Assistants hovered.
PR representatives whispered urgently.
Someone tried to joke about the exchange, but it fell flat. The moment had gone beyond comedy. And then something unexpected happened. Instead of leaving immediately, Will stayed. He spoke privately with the host. No raised voices. No cameras. Just a conversation. Those who were nearby later described it as measured, not confrontational but firm. A boundary drawn without spectacle. Minutes later, the host returned to the stage for the next segment, visibly subdued. The jokes were lighter, the tone more cautious. The shift was clear even to viewers at home. Online, the clip exploded. Comment sections filled rapidly. Some defended the humor. Others criticized it. But a large majority focused on one thing: how Will handled it. Words like class, control, and poise trended alongside his name. Media outlets replayed the moment repeatedly, analyzing his facial expressions frame by frame. Body language experts weighed in. Commentators debated whether it was strategic or instinctual. But what most people didn't see was the deeper layer. This wasn't just about a joke. It was about image, about public narrative, about understanding that, in the age of viral clips, reaction is currency. And Will chose not to spend his recklessly. He understood something critical. Anger would have fueled the spectacle. Silence would have fueled speculation. But composure redirected both. The following morning, headlines varied wildly. Some framed it as humiliation. Others framed it as a power move. But the most shared clips weren't of the joke. They were of his response. That's the part that shocked everyone. Because humiliation thrives on reaction. And he refused to give it the one thing it needed to survive. Instead, he turned the moment into a subtle masterclass. Days later, during another appearance, he was asked about the incident. He didn't criticize the host. He didn't escalate. He simply said, "Live moments teach you about yourself." That line alone reignited discussion. What did he mean by that? Was it forgiveness? Was it strategy? Was it quiet warning? The ambiguity only amplified the intrigue. Sponsors noticed the public support. Engagement numbers on his platforms surged. Interviews shifted tone, now centered around resilience rather than ridicule. The narrative had completely inverted. The host, on the other hand, faced scrutiny. Late-night commentators debated boundaries in comedy. Talk shows dissected the exchange repeatedly. The conversation expanded beyond one incident to a broader cultural discussion. And through it all, Will remained composed.
No dramatic statements. No explosive interviews.
Just presence. Months later, industry insiders would quietly admit that the moment altered more than just one show's ratings. It influenced how live interviews were conducted. Hosts became slightly more cautious, producers slightly more attentive, because everyone saw what happens when the target of humiliation refuses to play the role assigned. But there was one final twist that few anticipated. During an award ceremony later that year, the same host referenced the incident carefully, cautiously, in a self-deprecating joke. The audience laughed gently, and then the camera cut to Will. He smiled. This time it was genuine. Not defensive, not strategic, just calm. And that smile closed the loop. What started as public embarrassment had transformed into quiet dominance. Not through aggression, but through emotional control. That's what shocked everyone minutes later, and what continued to resonate long after. Because in a world driven by viral outrage, the rarest reaction is restraint. And restraint, when used correctly, becomes power. If you think that moment ended on live TV, think again. The ripple effects stretched far beyond that stage, into boardrooms, media discussions, and cultural debates. What seemed like a single uncomfortable exchange became a case study in composure under pressure. And the most fascinating part? It happened in less than 5 minutes. 5 minutes that reminded millions watching that sometimes the strongest move isn't retaliation. It's recalibration. So if you want the full breakdown of every subtle detail most people missed, the eye contact, the timing, the shift in audience posture, make sure you stay tuned. Because this story isn't just about humiliation. It's about transformation. And what happened next? That's where it becomes even more unexpected.